Hi everyone, Jeri Bellini here from Recycle Parts for Art. Welcome to Learn with the Little House. Today is a recycled garden video, and I'm going to show you my garden diary. So I recently made this book to keep track of everything that goes on in Jeri's garden, and I didn't go crazy with decorating it or anything. As you can see, it's pretty plain. But I did use a flower book for the cover. I cut the spine off, so I'll just tell you a little bit about what I did. Oops, sorry about that bump. A little bit about what I did to put my journal together. So I had some really heavy-duty green, army green canvas, and I think it might really be army canvas. I'm not sure. I found a little piece of it at a flea market. So I just cut it the size of my book and glued it to the covers. And on the inside, I did it a little differently than I usually do it. Normally I put this end paper on top of this, but I wanted this to show because it looks a little gardeny. So this was not a mistake. I took this cotton fabric first, and I glued this on before I glued on the canvas, and I wrapped it around to the front cover so that the bottom of the book is covered with a little bit of fabric. And I wanted to keep it super simple. I had a book, this gardener's notebook, and basically what was in here was just paper, just this note paper, and I cut it apart and I used the paper in my journal, in this journal, and I'll show you that in a second. But I also used it for the end papers, and I used it because I just liked it. It's got a little garden quote on it, and there's place to draw, and there's always a little flower on each page. So that's basically what I did for my book. I used, this is a not a file folder, but it's a file folder envelope, and it's really big. It's not fitting in frame. It's 15 inches wide. It's really kind of a weird size, but I had it, and it's a pocket, so I'm using it to house this little book, which is actually a Moleskine graph paper, and I'm using this for the diary part, meaning I'm keeping track of everything that goes on in my garden. So every day I'm tracking, and maybe this sounds really boring to some of you, but I am so enamored with my garden. I'm just so excited about it. So I'm tracking the weather and all sorts of stuff in here. So this book, stay with me for a second, this book might change every year. So this is my 2019. Jeri, what year are you in? This is my 2019 diary. Sorry about that banging. Brian's working on something. And I'm keeping track of how much money I spent. And of course this year is going to be the most money because I'm just setting myself up. And Lillian, Crafty Grandma, if you're there, I bought a composter. Well, Brian bought it for me. All right, so that's what this is for. And this is going to live in this pocket. Okay, it's a very sturdy pocket. So I did the pamphlet stitch on this little garden journal, and I made 4 signatures. And each signature houses some of this note paper that I can write on, and I'm going to also do some tip-ins. So this is really about my garden, and yes, I want it to look cute, but I'm not worried about fancying it up with all kinds of pockets and stuff. This is really about my garden. So I have a couple of these pages in there, and then I decided to put random, well, not really random, but I decided to put a selection of various papers. So I have some black cardstock, I have some watercolor paper, I have some more cardstock, mixed media, drawing paper, this is a little bit of a gray color cardstock, This is that toned gray paper that you buy. Strathmore carries it. This is like a paper bag, but it comes in a sketch pad. It's called Rough Sketch, I think, and there's some toned tan paper. So that's what's in each signature, and they're not always in order. Okay, and like I said, I got 4 signatures. So now that you know what I've got going on in my garden diary, this part of the book, so the 4 signatures, is housing information that I will be able to use every single year. So the basic information is in here. And just for an example, this section, okay, so this page is on composting. And I did write what kind of a composter I purchased. I keep saying I purchased. Brian got it for me. This one is about weeds and insects. So it just tells you a little bit about how you can get rid of weeds organically. Then here's things about bugs. Some bugs are really good for the garden. And so you want to encourage certain bugs to come into your yard, and here's how. If you have bugs that are not good and you want to make a bug trap, so I found this little thing, and you get the picture, right? Okay, so I kind of am making separate topics in here. So here's a little topic on container gardening and just some useful information that I found either on the internet or in a book. So what I did, I wanted to tell you, what I did is I had a garden book, and you know, Brian and I collect old books and we sell them in the Etsy shop. This was in a box lot, and it's a newer book, so I wasn't going to resell it. And yeah, I cut it apart. What I did is I cut it apart and I pulled out information that I found to be interesting or useful. So here's ladybugs. I did not know ladybugs are very good for your garden. I used to think that there was a problem when I saw a lot of ladybugs, but they're good. You can actually buy ladybugs too. That's the other thing. So I've got some crazy information that I'll put in my book that I just cut right out of that book. And some of this stuff I'll write in, but a lot of it I'll just glue down. So let me just show you what I got so far. So now that I've explained to you what I'm doing, so there's my zone. Here is companion planting, and these are the things that I'm planting, and if I decide to plant some new plants, I'll just add it. And then the tip-in shows what's cold weather plants and what are warm weather plants, because it's been a while since I've done gardening, and I kind of forget. Oh, there, sorry. Cold weather, warm weather. This is a list of the things I need to do. So I need to start in February, start thinking about my garden based on my zone. And this is some information on my seedling pots and how to make them, the size that I use, and my grow lights that I'm using, where I bought them. Let's see. I'm hovering over the camera. I'm behind it and I can't see real well. All right, so here we are. There's a section on watering my plants. Watering from the bottom is always really good. And I had a problem with white mold on my seedling pots because I watered them too much. I got them too wet. So stuff like that. It's just really interesting. This is a rain gauge, how to make a rain gauge out of a plastic bottle. As I showed you, this is interesting information about composting. I bought a double composter, so it's got two bins, and it's a very small one, so it's a very manageable composter for my yard. I wasn't going to get a composter because the last one I had was enormous. But we found one on Amazon, and if you're interested, I can put the link in the description box below. It was $90, and like I said, it's got a double barrel, so you put your kitchen vegetables and whatnot in one side, and they tell you actually how to start the whole process. You have to put a little bit of dirt in it and a little bit of, they call it brown organic matter, which is really just like dry leaves, to get it started. And when it and you have to tumble it every couple days, and once it starts to turn into dirt, at some point you want to stop adding vegetables and food into it, and so it has to have some time to rot. So then you use the other side. I said, this is awesome, because my last composter, it was just one thing, and you could only get one load of dirt out of the whole summer. Anyway, all right. There's my weed things. I did make a little pocket here with a little belly band, and more information on the bugs, the ladybugs. I'm also really super interested in birds this year, so I haven't put anything in here. I have no idea what I'm going to put in these pages, but now I jump to the next section. And so I'm going to have a section on birds. I have a birdhouse right outside my window and a bird feeder this year, and I know nothing about birds, but I'm really interested. So far this morning I looked up, I was going to get a book, and one of you wonderful people suggested that I download an app, so I downloaded the Audubon app, and I don't know how to use it yet, but I'll figure that out. So I have a bird that I was able to figure out. It's called a catbird, and it's all gray, so it's been visiting me every day. So flowers too. I want to do some flowers. And another thing is mixing what plants in one container, because, you know, I'm doing container gardening. So I wanted to know about that. And I'll either glue things in here or I'll draw or something in here. And then here's my bird section. And these are my bird feeders, and I want to do hummingbirds too. I have this crazy tree outside my window, and I don't know what it's called. I have to look it up, but it does attract hummingbirds. And so that's it. So you can see that's about it. And I did put an envelope at the back. I don't know if I'll use it or not, and the gardener's notebook. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed seeing my book. And I will give you updates on my garden every so often. It is actually starting to grow right now. The seedling pots are doing beautifully, and I'll probably... I also added a few more planters outside, old furniture I'm using, and my granddaughter came over yesterday and she said, "Mimi, you're so creative." I had to laugh. She's 8 years old. And she thought I was creative because I'm using an old dresser drawer for a flower pot. Anyway, I hope you enjoy hearing about my garden, and if you don't, no problems. Just pass the videos by when you see gardening in the subject line. And I hope everyone has a blessed day full of love and recycled art, and I will see you again soon. Bye.